Okay, everybody, this is going to briefly go over the Mao Zedong Communist China one. This is the one on the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution. Um, Both of these are going to require you to watch the embedded videos to get more details. I'm going to kind of talk in broad strokes here and not give you a ton of the answers because the answers are right in the other videos. They're fairly short. They're only a few minutes long each. There is one at the beginning on the Great Leap Forward, and then there are two shorter ones on the Cultural Revolution in the end. And I'll give you, like I said, some broad strokes, help you interpret some of the documents that need interpretation. And then I'm going to let you finish up the rest on your own. The way I would watch this is have the video playing, and if you can set up a split screen. If not, maybe the video on your phone and the questions out in front of you, or just listen to the video while you answer the questions. So, Great Leap Forward, economic and social plan used from 1958 to 1960 in China. The idea is that they were going to transform China from an agrarian farming-based society to a modern industrialized society. These modeled these after Stalin's 5-year plans in the Soviet Union, and we know how well those worked. So you can guess the results in China were probably not going to be that great. It is widely seen as a major economic and humanitarian disaster. The estimates of the number of people who died by famine and other reasons is somewhere between 14 million, and that's a Chinese government estimate, and 43 million on the high side. Okay, the video will tell you what a commune is. Needless to say, it's kind of very similar to the collective farms of the Soviet Union. You can see here there's a picture of it, of commune workers working the night using lamps on the side. The results of the attempt to have peasants make their steel was less than stellar. They basically had people melting down everything they had that was made of metal, especially anything steel or iron, and setting up these backyard forges to make steel. And the steel was of incredibly low quality and just didn't get it done. The other side of this is just like in Stalin's, when you tried to manage the food production, collectivizing agriculture, and also pulling people off farms and into other things that they were getting more incentive for in industry and stuff like that, food production dropped. And a lot of the agricultural practices that they put in place didn't work. And it led to a huge famine. And you can see the results of this famine in the document on the left here, the chart. These are the estimates of deaths, and you can see that they're all over the place. They're from different times in time as people have studied this. As few as 23 million, as many as 46 million. So needless to say, the effects of this was disastrous. I do want you to give me some specifics here from the video. You should definitely talk about the massive amounts of death. Here are your backyard furnaces over here in this picture, people trying to produce steel. Just looking at the size of these things, you obviously couldn't produce very much from that. You might be able to do some work and make some tools and things like that, but you weren't building huge steel beams to build stuff with. Then we get into the success of the Great Leap Forward, and as you can probably already tell, and once you're done watching the video you'll know, it was not very successful. I'd like some examples why. You can obviously use the charts above. You can see how much of an effect this has on China. The birth rate is the orange number, and you can see this huge drop in the birth rate, people having less children during this time period. Meanwhile, they're dying in great numbers, so the effects on the population of China were kind of jarring. But then once the Great Leap Forward is abandoned, the birth rate pops right up. And this is when you start having another huge population explosion in China, because these are millions of people per year being born and dying. And then China puts in the one-child policy, which we'll talk a little bit more, which begins to level out the population to where it is. Okay, Cultural Revolution is kind of a reaction to the Great Leap Forward. Great Leap Forward is very unpopular. So it's really that the big goal is to restore people's faith in Chairman Mao and the Communist Party, and to really reassert his leadership during this time. During this, he gets rid of anybody who's an enemy of his, and really tries to rejuvenate young people. By watching the two videos, you're going to get the answer to who the four olds were. Needless to say, these are the older traditions of China. Please list them specifically. The methods that he used was a whole lot of indoctrination. People were required to carry on their person what was called the Little Red Book, where they had all these sayings of Chairman Mao, and they were supposed to be able to quote from that if they were stopped on the street by basically these thought police. They used these propaganda posters, and you can see the guys in there in the front lines here have all got their little red book. All these people are holding up their little red book of Mao's sayings. So it was really creating a cult of personality very similar to Stalin. Again, Mao copied heavily from Stalin, with similar results. And they persecuted pretty much anybody who wasn't going along with Mao's line. How did Mao try to change education? And the Red Guards, all of these next three kind of go hand in hand. What they tried to do is they gave more power to the students and to young people through this. Mao saw them as his tools to get people on the plan. We'll get the younger generations there. Heavy indoctrination in the ideas of communism in the school, in the curriculum, and really a purging of some of China's history, Confucianism and things like that from China's history, and more a focus on the Communist Party. In addition to this, they set up these groups called the Red Guards, which were groups of young people, predominantly students your age and a little, into college age, who were charged with pushing people to get on there, and they encouraged people, and this is number 6 more, to denounce anybody who wasn't on board with it. So if you had a teacher, say O'Rourke is teaching the old ways, the government is going to come in, they're going to be denounced, and you're going to end up getting sent in jail or whatever. People were denouncing their teachers, they were denouncing their fellow citizens, they were denouncing their parents, their grandparents, anybody who was kind of clinging to the old ideas. And there are a number of things, and you saw in one of the videos, there's basically this lady sitting there yelling at somebody. You can see that in the picture here where they're pointing fingers and just denouncing anybody who stuck with any of the old ways. All right. Now, Mao giving power to the young people, a lot of that is to try to build a new generation. Okay. And to just grow it organically from the beginning. What ends the Cultural Revolution is numerous things. It's really not working, but Mao ends up dying in 1976, and that really brings the whole thing to a screeching halt. The effects of it is a lot of turmoil in China, a lot of class division, a lot of political prisoners, and the video goes into a few more things. So, now that you've finished that up, again, watch the 2 videos to fill in the details there. You should have a pretty good idea there, and answer this Google form. Okay. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think it's about 8 questions of multiple choice, and turn that in.